I've been up a long time, so I'm ready to go. It's great to gather here. We are getting toward the end of our program year, and just a couple of notes on Adult Forum as we are coming to the end. I saw Enid was handing out some sheets about what we have done and what we are looking to do for the future. We invite you to take a look at that. We don't want to distract from our presentation today, but we'd really love your feedback. You can fill that out maybe after forum, drop that off in the office sometime this week. We'd like to be able to have some more conversation next week about that and give you some sneak peeks into where we might be going next year. Today we're really, really fortunate to have Matt Morse, a U of M Golden Gopher. Ooh, how many Gopher fans are there? I don't see a lot of maroon and gold today, though. I don't know. Matt is Bob and Nancy Morse's grandson. That's how we got the connection. But he's here to share what it's like to be a student athlete and a Christian, and what faith means to him and how that has shaped who he is today. We'll have some panel discussion, and we'll have opening for all of you to ask questions as well. So let's welcome Matt.
Double H.
You count? I told Bob that he asked
Thank you. I am not the speaker, but let me say something about the speaker. Matt, today's both Mother's Day and opening of walleye fishing, and Matt, it's a great day for Matt on both counts, and he loves his mother who is here with us. He loves walleye fishing just a bit less, and they're going up on Monday. Is that right, Matt?
Yeah.
Let me tell you just something briefly about him, because he's going to talk religion, and let me let you know that he's a very good athlete. He's a red shirt junior, and those of you not acquainted with that terminology, that means that this would be his fourth year, but red shirting means that he was not in action the first year. This is kind of a build-up year, and many college athletes take that. So he has always been a great athlete. In high school at Apple Valley, he lettered in basketball, baseball, track, and football. He was recruited by Jerry Kill and is now playing for his third coach at the university. And some of you know that story. He last year played in all 12 games. He's a wide receiver and a special teamer. And I think that's probably as much as I should say. And his only downfall as a football player is he's a classical Minnesota nice person.
Before we get going, I'd like to just clarify, Mom, I do love you a lot more than that. Just a little. And also, there are very few of these exclusive Matt Morse jerseys, but all of the exclusive jersey owners are in this room, being my grandpa, my other grandpa, my dad, and my brother. So just wanted to make that known. Today, I want to talk about what it looks like to be an athlete on the campus at the University of Minnesota. So I've got a few PowerPoint pictures to show you, but before I do that, I'll talk a little bit about what the ministry looks like. So the ministry that I belong to on campus is called Athletes in Action. Athletes in Action has a mission that is called, it is disciples who make disciples. So that's our goal as we disciple people on different teams across the University of Minnesota. But it wasn't always like the success story that it is now. It was started 5 years ago on campus, and at this time, the leader of it, named Luke Middendorf, he had one in with Jerry Kill, and so he decided to start a Bible study because Jerry said it would be okay. And he started this Bible study with one other person on the football team. His name is John Christensen. And John was a Christian legend, per se. He went on to be a pastor, so it's fitting that he was the first person to be involved in this Bible study. As things went on, the years kind of brought a few more people, and so when I got there were about 30 guys there. This was 2 years after it had started. So it went from one guy to 30 guys in about 2-3 years. Now, when we are there, we have over 77 guys involved on a team of 110. So if you pay attention to any scripturally significant numbers in the Bible, 77 is up there as one of the most. So I don't think it's any coincidence that that's the number that we're at today. But Athletes in Action is on every single team now at the University of Minnesota. It disciples over 300 athletes of the 700 on campus. And it's incredible to see the impact that this has had on everybody on the campus. You know, we meet every quarter as a collective group of athletes. We go to the headquarters in Minneapolis, and we meet and we have Chipotle every time, which I'm convinced is probably what brings most people there, but either way, that's okay. We have Chipotle, we listen to a speaker who's brought in, who's sometimes a professional athlete, who's a pastor and minister around the cities. But either way, it's a great time for us to connect as a community. And then every week we have these discipleship groups, which are broken up into different teams. I am fortunate enough to be able to lead one of those, along with a few of my other teammates. There are 8 on the team, and then there are a few others across the other teams as well. So what's incredible about this community that we have is that it is an opportunity for us to be able to create this community that is not popular to have on college campuses, let alone on college football teams. So we get to have this opportunity to share our faith in the locker room, which is unheard of at our level, just because it's more popular to talk more about yourself and your accomplishments and why you made it to this space instead of giving God the glory and being able to talk about Jesus in the locker room, which is one of my favorite things to do. And I'd like to share a few testimonies of my teammates to show the impact that this has on some of our guys. One is a new freshman who came in this spring semester. His name is Curtis. Curtis is the largest person on our football team at 400 pounds, standing at 6'9". So when I stand next to him, I don't feel comfortable at all. I don't feel like a football player. So Curtis, the nicest, fun-loving, teddy bear type of guy you could ever meet. He has had a very difficult past. He grew up in a family that didn't believe, and he had his dad pass away 1 year ago on the day that he stepped foot on campus. And so because of this, Curtis was really confused. He just lost his father figure. He didn't have much of a place to turn. And what's really cool about this ministry is that we get to do ministry no matter where we are in our football complex, whether it's in the locker room, the training room, the players' lounge, the dining hall, whatever it may be, there's always an area that we feel comfortable talking about this. And Luke, the leader of Athletes in Action, has had a conversation with Curtis one day. And Curtis, is a very intelligent person, and so he's thinking all philosophically about what faith looks like, and he becomes saved here in the players' lounge. The reason that he was saved was because he felt like when the question was asked, Curtis, if your dad was coming back today, what would you want to do? And Curtis said, the first thing that I would do is prepare. I want to prepare for my father's return. And Luke used this as a segue into relating it to Jesus' return. If Jesus was the same father that you had here and he was coming back, what would you do? And Curtis instinctually said, I would prepare. I would get everything ready. I would make him a nice meal. I would make sure I looked nice. I would make sure that his experience here was wonderful. And so that was a perfect segue into his opportunity to become saved. Another person, he's a holder on the team. He's got an incredible story as well. He's beat cancer 4 different times. He's a freshman, just has had his cancer return. He's the strongest, one of the strongest guys I've ever met in my life. But he came up to me one day when we were in the training room. We were both doing some recovery stuff from one of our workouts. And he comes up to me and he goes, "Maddie, I got a question for you." I said, "Case, what's up?" He goes, "I grew up in the church, but I know about Jesus, but I want to be able to live a life that is joyful, that you and a lot of the other teammates are able to live." And I looked at him and I was like, "Case, I'd love to talk to you about this." And so Casey and I had this 1.5 hour long conversation well after our recovery was through, and we were sitting in the training room with our trainers around, and we had probably 3-4 guys able to weigh in on this conversation with Casey. And it was at this point that Casey became saved. So there are 2 examples of guys becoming saved all over the place in our football area. Another one is Philip. He's a wide receiver on the team. He's one of my best friends. He's a kid from the north side of Minneapolis, didn't have much of an upbringing. And my favorite thing about Philip was when I asked him to join a discipleship group, he comes up to me and goes, "Dude, I don't know about any of that stuff." And I was like, "You don't have to know about it to belong. Like, we want you here. I don't care what you know. Just come. Just try it one time." So Philip agreed to try it one time. And he comes in, and he was a lot more social than anyone had expected. He's kind of a soft-spoken guy. But he comes in, and we're asking him questions, and he's answering. But every single time he answered, he goes, "I don't read the Bible or anything, but this is what I think." And we're like, "Philip, man, it's okay. Like, this is not a hostile environment. It doesn't matter if you read the Bible. We just want you here. We want to share this with you." And so Philip then, after a series of coming back a few weeks in a row, is now saved as well. And so we have all these different examples of guys left and right, just learning what it means to be a Christian athlete. And it's amazing that we are given the platform that we are. So I would like to show a few slides here of some of the guys that we have. So this is one of the examples of one of our discipleship groups. So it's usually made up of 8 to 12 guys, and we go out and we meet every week for a series of weeks, and then we do what we call a life on life, where we go out and we either get ice cream or go to a baseball game or whatever, and we get to just hang out. So this is one of our Life on Lives. These are a bunch of the leaders on the football team and one leader on the baseball team. We have what's called a core group of guys who's leading the discipleship groups on the team. These are a few of the other guys when we went to an outreach event. We got to go speak at a children's event at a church in Andover. So we meet in the basement of Luke Middendorf's house every Wednesday night, so we get our cup filled and then have the rest of the week to go fill others. And yeah, I will get there in a second, so we can get this again. You go, sweet. Okay, so that's just an example of what it looks like a little bit for some of the guys in the group. But what I really want to talk about today was what it looks like to be a Christian athlete. And it's a big thing, and it's a lot harder than people think. Because if you think about being a Christian, or if you just think about being an athlete in general, at the Division I level, you can imagine the demand is pretty high. The demand of your time, the demand of your energy. And we put 50 to 60 hours a week, realistically, into our sport, whether that be film, eating right, recovery, weights, running, all these different things. We put 50 to 60 hours in. On top of that, we put in our 15 credit hours of school, and that's not counting homework and what that looks like. So realistically, we have a very small window of hangout time or time to rest. And then you bring in this thing that's being a Christian, and that's a lot harder in itself. I would say harder than being an athlete or being a student because of the demands that come with that. But there's all this pressure that comes with being an athlete on having this platform. There's pressure from trying to please your coaches and having that idolized, where you go out to practice every day and you think, all right, I need to catch this many balls and I need to run this many routes and I need to do these different things so I have the approval of my coaches. So there's pressure from you right away from the coaches. And then there's a pressure from your teammates too, because at one point everybody in that room or on the field was the best player on their high school field, without a doubt. And so you bring all these guys together, whether it's egos that come together and you try to figure out who's the best, or it's guys trying to tell you that you're worse than they are, and there's all sorts of smack talk going on. But there's pressure of being accepted by your teammates, and it's being accepted athletically, but it's also being accepted socially. I don't want to be the guy who's really good at sports but has no idea how to hold a conversation and nobody talks to me, so I'm good at sports but I don't have any friends. Or I don't want to be the guy who's super social but is terrible at sports, so it's trying to figure out this balance with all these egos. So there's the pressure of that too. But one of the biggest things for me was seeing the success of these players who had gone on and played in the NFL. And what I noticed about the majority of them is that they are successful without having faith in their life. And so it's very easy for me, it's successful in terms of the world and how the world deems success. And so it's really easy for me and all my teammates to think, okay, I don't need faith. All these guys made it. All they do is play football and they buy cool cars and they have dope necklaces and whatever it is. And so you look at this success that these people have and you think, man, I can do this on my own. It's really easy for me to do this on my own. But the reality is that you will fall short in satisfying these needs every time. So there's also the demand or the pressure of playing time. And I would be lying to you if I said I didn't strive to have as much playing time as I want, because I think as any athlete, Christian or not, that should be a goal, to work hard and look for playing time. But idolizing it is another pressure that comes from it, and thinking everything that I do is going to equate the amount of playing time that I have. If I catch this ball, then I'm going to play more. If I drop this ball, I'll be sidelined for this game. If I do these certain things, it's all based on these measurements of what or how much I will play. And then there's the status that comes along with it. There's the title of being a Division I athlete. You have the local fame, if you can call it that. You have this title where people know who you are. You walk around with a maroon backpack that symbolizes right away that you're an athlete. People know that. For those of you who have Instagrams, I doubt that with this crowd it's that many, but it's more of a Facebook. It's more of a Facebook thing, isn't it? This younger generation, I'll just put it that way. This younger generation uses Instagram a lot, and they have this Instagram bio, and basically it's this little 100-character box where you get to say who you are. And it's hilarious because you always know when an athlete has an Instagram because they have that as the first thing in their thing. It's like University of Minnesota football, the grind never stops, bless up, all glory to God. And it's just stuff that doesn't really make sense because all these guys aren't Christians, but it's like this popular thing to do. And so you have this status of being a Christian or an athlete on Instagram too. And then there's the status of being popular. All the things that comes with it. Being an athlete, you get to hang out with more people. More people want demand of your time. More people want to hang out with you, or to be able to say that they are friends with this Division I athlete. And all this is stuff that, for me, when I experienced it, caused a downhill spiral. I like to talk a little bit more about my story now. So I grew up in a Christian home, a very good one. I had Christian mom and dad who were very good about helping me understand who Jesus was and what all of it was about. And as I went into college, or as I went into middle school and high school, I still went to church every Sunday and Wednesday, and I went to my youth group, and I carried around this term Christian. And all the while I was striving to be the more popular guy in school, the guy who was best at sports. But I was carrying around this term Christian, and I wanted to be this guy who was known. And that got worse as I went into college. I still carried around this term called Christian, and I led Bible study groups right away. I got on campus and got the opportunity to lead some. And on these Friday Friday mornings when we would have Bible study group, I would be the guy leading and telling these guys, this is how we should live. This is a community where we get to grow. And then I was the same guy who was hosting the community where guys were coming to get hammered and do things partying wise that Christians shouldn't be doing. So I was living this double life, and it ended up making a very detrimental impact on my life to the point where I was looking for excuses to just give up on faith, because I felt so convicted inside that I didn't want to be a part of this faith thing anymore. I wanted to go on and do my own thing and live my own way, and God had a different plan for that. But God is one of my favorite phrases in the Bible, because after there's but God, something miraculous is about to happen. So in my story, but God had a different plan for me. And in Matthew chapter 18, verse 12, Jesus gives the parable of the lost sheep. How when one sheep is lost, the shepherd will leave the 99 to go find the one. And he rejoices more over the one that he found and returned back to the flock than the 99 that he had left to go find. And that's exactly what he did for me. And I made a plea with God. I said, God, if you really want me, if this is something that you want in my life, you've got a week to prove it. I gave him the time. I'm better than this guy. He's going to show up to me, right? So I was fully expecting this week to go by and nothing was going to happen, and I was going to just quit faith altogether. But God decided to put this man in my life named Ryan Santoso. Ryan, for you Gopher fans, is the punter for the University of Minnesota. He just graduated, is now the punter for the Detroit Lions. He's one of my best friends, one of the greatest guys I know. Probably be the best man at my wedding someday. But at this point in time, I could not stand Ryan Santoso. Ryan was the guy who was leading my Bible study and knew the potential that I had in my faith, and that I had a background in it, and knew that I was living this party lifestyle, this rock star lifestyle outside of it. So he was one of the only guys who knew both sides of the story. And so he would text me every day about this ultimate training camp that was coming around this season. An ultimate training camp, I'll get into it here in a sec, but it was this very hyped up event that a lot of athletes from all over the nation went to, of all different divisions. And they'd go here to experience your faith incorporated in sport. But Ryan texted me every day for a month, I'm not even kidding, every day for a month, and said, hey, what are you thinking about UTC? And so I wouldn't reply to him, and then he'd come see me in the locker room and say, hey, I sent you a text, did you see it? Yes, I saw it. The same one as yesterday and the day before, the week before, right? And so eventually, I went up to Ryan after he had texted me twice in one day, and I said, look, buddy, if I sign up, will you stop texting me? And he says, yes. That was my plan. So I signed up for this camp, this ultimate training camp. I heard so much about it, it's life-changing, whatever. I still was very skeptical about God's area or place in my life. And so I go to this ultimate training camp, which, like I said, is for athletes of all divisions, all over the place. And you get to experience God in your faith. They basically break you down physically so you have a spiritual breakthrough. Not like break you all the way down physically. I'm still standing, although I felt like I wanted to die sometimes. But you learn all these different lessons throughout the week, and you get to learn how to find a focal point on your field where maybe the goalpost represents the cross, and so you just look at the goalpost and you get to reset after a play and just think, okay, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Or you get to learn, what is God's place in sport? Are they separate? Are they mutually exclusive? Or do they get to be combined? And as we went throughout the week, there's this thing called the special. And I know why they call it the special, because it's this 20-hour long obstacle course. Basically, you picture the hardest workout that you've ever done in your whole entire life, and then you do that, and then you do that for 20 hours. And that's what this was. So it's pretty special, but everyone hated it. And you do rope climbing and tug of war, and you play basketball, and you swim, and you do relays, and you play volleyball, and you do plank holds, and ladder footwork, literally anything you can imagine physically, you do it. And you do it for 20 hours. And everyone throughout this physical torment has their spiritual breakthrough. And I'm getting to the end of mine, and I'm seeing all these guys cry, and all these big football players cry, and break down and experience God, and I'm sitting there like, all right, where's mine? I feel physically broken. I want to give up. I want to quit. Where's my breakthrough? All these guys are having it. Maybe God doesn't want me. And I told God again. I made another plea with him because the first one, I guess, wasn't good enough. And the very last event of this special, you run up this hill called Golgotha, is what they call it. So it's the hill that Jesus carried his cross up and was crucified on. And this hill, at the bottom of it, you carry this wooden plank on your back representing carrying a cross, and you run a mile up this hill. And I told God at the bottom of that hill, I said, if I don't experience you here, you're done. Like, no chance. I'm running up this hill with this board on my back, and I get to the top of the hill, and I've never felt a greater peace, a greater love, a greater joy in my whole entire life that came over me when I got to this hill. The sense of accomplishment, but not accomplishment of my own doing, but accomplishment because I knew that if I couldn't do that on my own, that this 20-hour special could only be motivated through me, through Jesus, and the way that he lived his life. That was the motivation for me, and his help through that mentally. And so I'm sitting there at the top of this hill with a bunch of my teammates, and we're all bawling, and we're looking at each other like, I won't tell anyone if you don't tell anyone. And we're all crying, and we got to experience this wonderful, wonderful thing. And I've got a few other pictures I'll show you at UTC just to give you a little picture of it. So you get together with your team. You have about a team of 8 or so people, and you compete together through this. So this was all the football players who got to go. We had a really good showing of freshmen through seniors, guys going off to the NFL, all trying to experience the same thing. This was my team. This was one of the exercises. You had to run a mile around the track with this plank and tire on, and you couldn't let go of it. So if someone had to go to the side to puke, you had to hold them and the board and watch them puke. And it was a team exercise, obviously. These were the ropes, and in the back you can see there's relays and ab exercises and everything. So in every way that you look, you will see some sort of person working extremely hard. This was our team. This was about halfway through. You can see I was a little dead there on the right, but everyone else seemed to be all right. And then this was, Ryan is in the yellow hat. You can't see him yet, but Trey was a long snapper for us too. And this was us praying and encouraging each other afterwards. And what we experienced, this was at the top of Golgotha, we were saying what we experienced, this can't just end here. This has to go back. This has to be something that we all can experience on the team. And this is the community. I heard there was an Iowa football season ticket holder maybe in here, maybe somewhere. But these are a bunch of people that we had camp with, and this is the one time of the year that we're friends with these guys. We actually formed a lot of really good relationships. This was after the football game this year. But people from all over, you form this great bond with athletes from all over, and keep in touch with them, asking how Athletes in Action is doing on their campus, what we can be praying for. We've got this group message together, sending prayer requests all the time. This is another picture of some of those people too, in showing the great community that it creates. We got to go to, we had a big reunion. Actually, we enjoyed it so much. We had a reunion about 2 weeks after. Everyone went to one of the guys at a big farm in North Dakota, so we made the trip out there and hung out there for the weekend. So those are some pictures of what it looks like to have that community from UTC. Thank you. But I wanted to share some things, more than anything, that I learned at the University of Minnesota. I learned about love. And I experienced this love at the very beginning, or at the very top of the hill of Golgotha. But I experienced it a lot along the way that I didn't really realize. And I know it's probably weird, you're sitting here thinking, football players don't talk about love, they just talk about crushing skulls and listening to heavy metal music, whatever. But love is the thing that I found to be the most important out of all the themes that I've experienced. And I learned about it both good and bad. I learned about it in good from Ryan and his pursuit of me. I learned what it looks like to have a loving community of guys that care about you and that have this sympathetic, emotional connection to the people that you're with. And I learned about it from God and the way that he loved me, even though I didn't love him, that I was pleading and making bets with him and making him and his situation conditional, and he was loving me unconditionally. And I learned about the way that he loves us, how it surmounts to nothing that we could ever experience here. I learned about the love of a father, that I lived a way that didn't represent how my family lived, that didn't represent the beliefs that my family had, and I had a loving father who showed me exactly what that looks like, to accept me and my flaws, and he knew that I would come around someday. I'm glad that it was sooner than later, but I saw this love from him, and then I started thinking, if a flawed, sinful man like my father, who is so great, could love me like that, I can't imagine how this perfect being, God, could love me. And that he doesn't care where I've been. He took me as the one and left the 99 to find me, that he loved me that much. And I learned about a lot of love for the bad, too. That I love football way too much. I still love football, don't get me wrong. But I loved it too much. I loved the title that came with it. I loved the fame that came with it. Most of all, I loved myself and everything that came with that. I loved myself, and the hard work that I had put in was finally rewarded. I loved myself and the recognition that people gave me when I walked around campus. They would come up to me and say, "Oh, you're that football player, right?" I'd say, yeah, and just not give them a minute of their time because I was the football player and they were wasting mine. And I learned that I loved when everything revolved around me. Sometimes I used people and the conversation around people to use that and bring it back to me. I would pretend to care about someone and their conversation and their life, so then I could relate it back to my own and tell them this great story about who I was. And that was the love that I had found, and it was all fueled by football. But I became burnt out of this football passion, and like anyone who's burnt out, this passion was not backed with patience and process. It was backed with this experiential thing that I just wanted to own the moment now and who I was now. And I wasn't patient, and I didn't have this process. And what I realized is the process is the experience. And through this experience, I realized that I get to learn a whole heck of a lot. I learn a lot more through experiences than I could ever learn otherwise. If you think about common things that we know, a lot of it is just a series of information that we've memorized. Maybe that we don't know per se, but we know how to regurgitate it and say, this is what I've heard, this is what I know. And what I've come to learn is that I realized a lot of this love through my experiences. And that's the best way that we get to learn, is through these experiences. I'm talking to a very experienced crowd, so I know that you guys understand that learning through experiences is the greatest way to be able to learn. And inherent knowledge comes with these experiences. You know so much more about anything once you're able to experience it, once you're able to teach it. And this is what I was understanding. And God was the same way, and I was learning about his public love. In John chapter 1, verse 39, it says, "Come and you will see." And I learned from experience that this love that was offered towards me was a public love. It wasn't one that he was hiding and keeping for certain people, like I had originally thought that it was, that I wasn't good enough for him. But it was a love that was completely public for anyone to have. And I experienced that the love of God, the love of, or for God and of God, is what is the basis of our faith. That I couldn't have faith without the love of God and the love that he had for me, and I didn't understand that. But I got to experience it through people that he put in my life, and sometimes God uses the most ordinary things that we often overlook to speak to us. And this is being Ryan Santoso in my case. But this love that we get to experience is so great and is the number one talked about thing in the Bible. It's how Jesus lived his life. Jesus' life was not centered around doing miracles, showing people who he was. It was around loving people. That was his main mission. And the way that he did these miracles was through loving people. You never see him making healthy people sick. He always made the sick people healthy because he loved them. He had this love for them, and his main goal in living was to show so much love that they could represent who his Father was. And that our Father loves us so much that he sent his Son down for us is the greatest love story of all time. It's incredible to think about giving up the one thing that we have, that we're so sinful, so bad, that someone had to die. And that was kind of a crazy thought for me, but it was all out of love. He didn't have to do that. He doesn't need us in his grand scheme. If everything is to glorify God, why does he need these sinful people to do that? He doesn't need us. But he took that and he used that as a way to glorify him because he knew that we needed this love. In John chapter 3, verse 1, it says, "See what kind of love the Father has given to us, that we should be called children of God, and so we are." The word "see" right away, it says, see what kind of love the Father has given to us. See is not only an action of visually seeing something, but it's an invitation to come experience something. It's to grasp this love. It's to comprehend this love that he's given us. And I think for us to experience the greatest spiritual victory, we get to take and combine this connection of spirituality and understanding. And so our experiences for our understanding and our great love through our spirituality is where we get to gain this victory. Experience, in my opinion, has the potential to change everything. It really does. It's an experience of love. You get to change the way that you think. It could change the world. It could answer any unanswered questions in our heart. It could change souls and satisfy the unrest that we have through this love. And it's only through experience. You can talk about love as much as you want. You can read about it, but to experience it is what will change it. And so, as I wrap up my encouragement this morning, is that God pursued me and is doing the same for every one of us in so many different ways than we may imagine. That I'm not the one and you guys are the 99. We're all the one in that parable. Don't get it confused. That we are all the person that shepherd is chasing. And the 99 is to be left so that he can celebrate with our souls that come to believe in him. And my great understanding now is that God loves me more than I could have ever wanted. He loves me even though I wrap myself up in a great partying circle. He loves me even though I had this image of being this football player and wanting to be famous and wanting to be known. And the only way to comprehend this love for me was to experience it. And I think the same holds true for everyone, that we get to experience this love together. And it's the love that we get to show other people, and it's noticing the love that people show us. And that's how God uses people. And in the same way, I want to go back and I want to kind of explain how experience can kind of help. So I've got a football example for you really quick. So we install certain, it's going to sound like I'm speaking Chinese here for a second for some of you who don't know football, but just hang with me. We install certain plays every practice that we get to run over and we get to practice them. And when we install them in the film room before practice, and we have our coach talk about what we're going to see. He says, we're going to install this pony route, which is a post, and he goes, you're going to see it against a cover 4 blitz. I'm sitting there like, all right, that's fine. That doesn't mean that much to me. And I'm sitting there thinking, okay, a cover 4 blitz. I'll make a mental note about that, so when I run this post, I'll be thinking about that. And in the back of my head, I'm like, I don't know what a cover 4 blitz is. I don't know. I'm just going to trust the quarterback on this one. Which came back to bite me a little bit later. So I didn't know what the cover 4 blitz was. And I knew what cover 4 was, but I had no idea what the blitz meant. So cover 4 is when the two safeties drop back and you divide the field into 4 quarters. So the cornerbacks each have a quarter, and the two safeties have the middle quarters. And the middle linebacker drops. It's kind of like a Tampa 2 coverage. You don't need to know that. And it's when the linebacker drops back too. And so I'm out here on the outside, and I'm going to run this post. And I'm sitting there, and as I'm getting in my stance, I'm thinking, all right, cover 4 blitz. All right, I don't know what that means. And so I'm about to run this post, and I'm thinking, all right, quarterback and I are on the same page. He's going to toss me this thing. And he does. But we were both on the same page, and it turned out to be the wrong page, that you don't throw a post in the cover 4 blitz. Because you're running this post, and as soon as you break it off and the ball's going to be there, there's still a safety right over the top of you. And I got to experience that one the hard way, where I caught this ball and got smoked. And I come back to the sideline, and I talked to my coach, and he goes, we talked about that. You're supposed to prepare for that hit. And I was like, yeah, I forgot. And I went over and I talked to the quarterback, and I was like, dude, I don't know if you're supposed to throw that. And he goes, yeah, they were talking about it in film, and I was kind of confused. And I was like, all right, well, we're going to have to settle that one before we go play a game here. But in the same way that I got to experience something a little bone crushing, I got to experience this love. And so, as you wouldn't run a post into a cover 4 blitz, I would say that we wouldn't run this life that we lead without the love of God. You're missing a component, that this experience is the only way that you get to understand this. And is it going to take some hits and some bruises and some things that you didn't want? Yeah, no doubt. You're going to run a lot of things in the cover 4 that you didn't want to, but you're going to experience through that the love of God. And so I appreciate you guys having me out today. I love being able to get back and to my grandpa as well, and grandma. So we're going to open up for question and answer right now, I believe, if that works.
So I have a question, what's next? I mean, this has been a really intense experience on campus, so you're looking at a year left?
Got a year left, yep.
So what's faith look like beyond university life?
Yeah, the faith.
What's life look like beyond university life?
So beyond school, once I graduate, I want to go to seminary school. I want to look into going to ministry further. I don't know exactly what that looks like yet. I've got a little bit of time to figure that out, and I'm a little bit of a procrastinator, so come down to the wire for me. But for faith, that's kind of what it looks like. I would like to go to seminary and to be able to further my knowledge and experience. And I love being able to share my faith and share with people, whether it's teaching or just sharing in general. That's kind of what it's looking like.
Matt, at the end of a game, a number of you gather, and both teams, looks like you're having a prayer in the middle of the field. What's going on then?
Yeah, we pray on our individual sideline before the game, and that's led by kind of whoever's feeling at that game. And then there's a prayer in the middle of the field, no matter where we at, win or lose, home or away, that happens on the logo on the 50-yard line. We invite the other team to come pray with us, and we usually have a pretty good showing of guys. More when we win, coincidentally, but we do have a good showing of guys who will lead a prayer and pray for the other team's safe travels back home and for an opportunity to glorify the Lord.
With regard to now, naturally, you're going to have a lot of men that you're interacting with, a lot of your faith. How about women as well? Naturally, football program, you're going to be with men, but have you had an opportunity to interact with more of a mixed group, and men and women? Because I think that can bring a whole new element to Christianity as well.
Yeah, I go around and I do some of this speaking. I go to local FCAs around the Twin Cities, which is Fellowship of Christian Athletes, similar to Athletes in Action, just at the high school level. So I get to speak to that mixed crowd of people there. I've got to go to a few youth groups, and I don't bring sports up, and they don't know that I'm a football player, because I like to just talk about Jesus and who he is. So I've done that before too. But we have an excellent example of women leaders on each team too. And we've got a cool story actually. The dance team didn't have anyone involved in Athletes in Action until 2 years ago. There was one member who wanted to join, and her goal was to have everybody join at some point. And she's a very flamboyant personality, very, very out there, but she's awesome. And she got to have this time with her teammates in the locker room where she asked them if they would be willing to join this group. And every single person on the 25-person dance team decided that that was something they wanted to do. And so there's great leadership all across the campus, both men and women in different groups that are mixed or not.
Matt, there are Jewish players, there are Muslim players. You have a Christian group. Is that exclusive?
Not at all. Not at all. Our thing is we want you there. You don't have to believe to belong. That's our thing. We want you to be able to sit in and experience. And what we believe is open to everyone, and it's a love that we all get to share. And I don't want to be the person who's not going to share my faith with a Jewish person because they're Jewish. I want to be a person who's going to honor them being another sinful person like myself and be able to live and be a light for them. So as far as those different religions go, there are only a few guys on the team with those, but every single time that we've got group, I reach out to all of them and I say, this is the week that you want to join. Just come one time. It would be great to have you. So.
Happy Mother's Day. It's the greatest gift.
Matthew told us last night in response to a question about football was how many balls do you catch? And I think you could maybe tell these people about that. And do you ever doubt the love of God during that?
Yeah, so I doubt a lot of things during that time when my hands start to go numb. But we catch 500 balls a day. Every receiver does, and so we've got a bunch of different ways that we do that. We'll get together with a few of them, and we'll go through. There's machines that throw balls to us now, and so if you want a ball coming in at 80 miles an hour, which no one wants that, but if you do, by some chance, you can crank this machine up to it. So we catch all these balls, and we get together with guys, quarterbacks and receivers, and we go around doing that. It takes another hour or so out of our day, but we have a good pace through it.
Can you imagine that? Catching 500 balls a day? And that's just part of their workout.
Matt, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Other Big Ten teams, other colleges that you visit with, what level of involvement in an Athletes in Action are you seeing in those universities?
Right now, we have the greatest across the United States with Athletes in Action. We've got the most guys. The second most is Ohio State. They've got that's where Athletes in Action like headquarters are. So they've got a lot of people involved there. But there are different teams all over the Big Ten. Wisconsin has involvement, and Iowa has involvement. Those are ran a little bit differently, more through students because there's not people staffed out in Athletes in Action on those campuses. But yeah, there's involvement all over, and you can tell that there's kind of a hunger for it, that people want an opportunity, whether they go or not, but at least have an opportunity to experience that.
One more, maybe? Anybody?
Yeah.
Yes.
How do your coaches respond to your group and your witnessing? How do they respond to that?
Yeah, our coach Fleck, is very. I don't know if you guys ever heard him talk before, but he stresses 4 areas of your life: academically, athletically, socially, and spiritually. So he does stress the spiritual side. He is a Christian, and he has said that before, but he's at a public institution, and politically he doesn't say too much about it. But he does encourage people to go try something out. And the first person whose phone number people get when they get to campus is Luke Middendorf. So they get an opportunity, if that's something they're interested in, to go experience that. And they're great with it. They're open to learning more about it. And it's not like we're walking around and we're speaking tongues and we're doing all these things in the locker room. We're not shoving Jesus down people's throats by any means, but we go around and we do, make it known that this is something that everyone can be involved in. We've had coaches come to some of our Bible studies. I've had some of our support staff have had our strength coach come and sit in, and they participate sometimes. So it is something that everyone wants to be a part of at some point, whether they know it or not. So.
Well, an impressive young man, and he's my grandson.